All right, let's talk about leadership. It's one of those topics everyone has an opinion on, right? Today, we're going to really break it down. We're moving past those simple, boring checklists to figure out what it actually takes to be an effective leader. And you know this little chameleon here? It's a bit of a clue. It might have a lot more to do with adaptation than you'd think. So, what really makes a great leader? I mean, for decades, right? Business books have been trying to crack this code. And usually, the answer you get is, well, it's pretty simple. It's just a list of inspiring qualities. But, and this is the key, the real answer is so much more interesting, so much more dynamic than that. Okay, so let's start with the classic view. For the longest time, the main idea was that leadership is just a collection of good traits, a checklist. And you can see why that's so appealing, right? It makes it sound like, hey, if you just work on these specific qualities, you're pretty much guaranteed to succeed. And what's on that checklist? Well, you've got what I like to call the big four. You've got integrity, you've got drive, vision, and of course, a commitment to equity and diversity. And we see these traits celebrated all the time in leaders like Jacinda Ardern, who's famous for her compassionate approach, or Jagmeet Singh, who's known for his focus on equity. And look, these things are absolutely important. They're kind of the foundation of what we expect from anyone in a leadership role. But here's where it gets complicated. Is it really that simple? I mean, think about it. If leadership was just about ticking off these boxes, shouldn't we have way more great leaders? The truth is, this simplicity is actually pretty deceptive, because what happens when you have too much drive? It can start to mess with your integrity. Or what if your vision is so powerful that it becomes rigid and you stop being open to real diversity of thought? The reality is just so much more complex. And that complexity leads us right to the core conflict, a huge paradox that every modern leader faces. Seriously, this is something that's playing out every single day, in every boardroom, in every project team, all over the world. So on one side, you have this idea of the authentic leader. You know the drill. Be true to yourself, lead from your core values, be that unwavering visionary. But then on the other side, you've got the adaptive leader. And here, we're told that the real secret to success is flexibility. You got to be able to change your style depending on the situation, depending on your team. So that's the big question, isn't it? Can you actually be both? Can a leader be a rock, totally steadfast with their vision, and at the same time be like water, able to adapt to whatever comes their way? Well, to figure that out, we're going to need a couple of powerful tools to help us analyze this. So to really get to the bottom of this paradox, we're going to look at leadership through two different and kind of competing management theories. Just think of them as two different lenses. Each one is going to help us bring the whole picture into much sharper focus. Okay, first up, we have trait theory. This is basically the foundation for that whole checklist idea we were just talking about. The theory is pretty simple. Effective leaders are just born with, or they develop a specific set of stable traits that make them different. It's all about the what of leadership. What qualities does this person have? But then you have the legendary management guru, Peter Drucker, who came along and basically blew that whole idea up. He argued that, from what he'd seen, effective leadership has nothing to do with personality. It's all about practice. In his words, it's about what leaders actually do, not just who they happen to be. And Drucker's point is the perfect setup for our second lens, situational leadership theory. This theory says there is no single best way to lead. Nope. Instead, your effectiveness as a leader all comes down to adapting. You have to adapt to the situation, and you have to adapt to the readiness of your team. And what's readiness? It's just their skill level and their confidence for whatever task is in front of them. This theory gives us the how, the when, and the why of leading. So how does that work in practice? Well, the theory breaks it down into four main styles. Let's say you've got a brand new employee who's still learning the ropes. You'd probably use a telling style, very direct, very clear instructions. But what about a seasoned expert on your team? Well, with them, you can step back and delegate. See? A great leader doesn't just have one default style. They have a whole toolkit, and they know exactly which tool to pull out for the job. All right, theory is great, but let's put this to the test in the real world. We can see this exact tension between sticking to your core traits versus being adaptable play out perfectly when we compare two e-commerce giants. You've got Canada's own Shopify, and then the global behemoth, Amazon. Okay, let's look at Shopify first. The founder, Tobi Lütke, built the entire company on this incredibly powerful, trait-driven vision of arming the rebels. It's authentic, it's motivating, it's great stuff. But then, a top-down decision to ban most political chat at work, which is a classic telling move, caused a huge stir. It led to people leaving and a big public debate. It really shows what can happen when you apply just one style to a really complex, mature team. Now let's swing over to Amazon. Their famous leadership principles are presented like they're universal traits, right? But the day-to-day reality there is extremely situational. And the result? You get a culture that's world famous for innovation and being obsessed with the customer, but it's also known for being a super high-pressure place that can lead to burnout. So what's the big takeaway from all this? I mean, both of these companies are led by absolute visionaries with incredible drive. But what these examples show us crystal clear is that if you rely too much on a fixed set of traits and you don't adapt to the situation, you can create some very real, very serious strategic problems for your organization.
Okay, so after all that, where do we land? Let's pull all these threads together and figure out what this means for the future of leadership. What's your big takeaway here?
I think it boils down to 3 core principles for any modern leader. First, think of those core traits, like integrity and drive, as the price of admission. They get you in the game, but they are not on their own going to make you win. Second, adaptability is your accelerator. Being able to shift your style, that's what gives you and your team real momentum. And third, equity is not just another box to check. It's a strategic lens that changes how you apply all your other traits and make all your decisions. And believe me, this need for adaptability, it's about to go into overdrive. Why? Because the rise of generative AI is going to completely change the game of leadership. In this new world we're heading into, the most valuable leaders, they won't be the ones with the single brilliant vision. They'll be the ones who can act as the synthesizer in chief. So what does that even mean? It means a leader's main job is going to shift. It's not about having all the answers anymore. It's going to be about asking the right questions. It'll be about orchestrating this incredible dance between human talent and artificial intelligence, taking all that massive output and providing the moral and strategic compass to guide it. And that means meta traits like ethical judgment and critical thinking, they become more valuable than anything else. And that brings us to the final question, and this one's for you to think about. In an age where AI can do more and more, what is your most human leadership skill? What's the one thing you bring to the table that a machine never could? What is it that will make you not just a manager, but a true leader? Something to think about. Thanks for joining me.